There exists a letter, aged and brittle, locked away in the deepest vault of the Vatican's secret archives. A letter no historian was ever meant to read. Its parchment carries not only ink, but tiny reddish stains that experts, in whispered conclusions, believe may be human blood. And its author, a girl of 14, a girl whose wedding night should have crowned her Queen of France, but instead destroyed everything innocent within her. Her name was Catherine de' Medici. Sent from Florence as a political pawn, she believed her marriage to Henry, Duke of Orleans, would bring her honor, influence, and perhaps even affection. But behind the velvet curtains of the Palace of Marseille, a far darker tradition awaited her, one never recorded in official chronicles, known only to the oldest noble families: the purification ceremony. A medieval ritual designed to cleanse foreign brides through humiliation. A ritual performed behind locked doors. A ritual witnessed by 23 nobles hiding behind secret passage slits in the walls. That night, Catherine walked toward her bridal chamber, her silk-gloved hands trembling. She expected gentleness. She expected a ceremony of love. She received calculated cruelty. Henry, himself only 15, stood waiting. Not as a husband, but as an instrument. Every move he made had been instructed by a woman twice his age, Diane de Poitiers, his mistress, who despised the Florentine girl and choreographed the entire spectacle. The first gestures were deceptively soft. Then the ritual began. Voices whispered behind the walls. Wine cups clinked. Some nobles laughed. Others bet money on how long the young bride would remain conscious. When Catherine pleaded in Italian, her cries were absorbed by laughter. When she fainted, the court physician revived her again and again. 3 times she slipped into darkness, 3 times dragged back into torment. Tiny blood vessels burst in her eyes, creating a rare condition where her tears mixed with blood. By dawn, the timid girl who entered that room had ceased to exist. In her place stood something new, something cold, something patient, and something dangerous. For days she spoke almost nothing. But she watched. She listened. She memorized every face, every voice, every cruel laugh. And in the privacy of her chamber, she began a diary. A quiet, meticulous ledger of vengeance. 3 years later, the first death, Catherine had played her role perfectly. The obedient wife, the humble Florentine, the harmless girl. But each night she returned to her diary. She refined her plans. She studied herbs taught in the convent of St. Lucy, substances that could heal or kill with elegance. Her first target, Jean de Montmorency, one of the men who had laughed the loudest during her suffering. The poison she created was a masterpiece. Hemlock blended with mercury, calculated to mimic food poisoning, but far more agonizing. He died on a winter morning. Pink foam at the lips, convulsions, hours of silent agony. A small vial of dark red liquid and a note were found near his bedside, though its meaning was never understood. For Catherine, it had only begun. The web of death, one by one, the names in her diary were struck off. Some fell ill over weeks. Some collapsed within minutes. Others woke one morning unable to speak, their organs silently failing. The palace whispered of a curse, a shadow, an invisible executioner. They were right, but they never suspected the queen herself. She played her role beautifully, hosting banquets, smiling politely, mourning politely. But behind every death there stood a quiet logic. Each punishment mirrored the cruelty she had endured. Her diary was no longer a record. It was justice. The fall of Diane de Poitiers, the final woman on her list, was the hardest. Diane had controlled Henry. Diane had orchestrated the ritual. Diane had broken Catherine. Catherine's revenge was not quick. It was art. For years, she administered doses so small they mimicked age. Diane's skin dulled. Her memory slipped. Her energy vanished. To the court, she still appeared radiant, but dying from the inside. At 66, she drank wine handed to her by Catherine herself. It was her last drink. The autopsy revealed slow destruction of the organs, exactly what Catherine intended. The final target, King Henry, to Catherine, waited more than 2 decades. His death had to be symbolic, a mirror of the pain he delivered. On July 10, 1559, a grand tournament was held in Paris. Henry rode proudly into the field. Catherine watched from her royal box, her expression unreadable. During the joust, Montgomery's lance split upon impact. A splinter shot through Henry's visor, piercing his eye. The wound should have killed him quickly. Instead, he lingered 10 days, convulsions, fever, hallucinations. Modern studies of the preserved spearhead revealed traces of an organic toxin. No one could prove the spear was tampered with. But on Henry's tomb exists a strange Mark III interlocked circles crossed by a vertical line. The same symbol Catherine carved into the bridal chamber wall in her own blood at 14. His death liberated her. No witness remained alive. No one left who knew the secret of that night. The little Florentine girl had become the most feared strategist in Europe. The darker truth behind the archive's Catherine story was not unique. In the same vault are documents revealing that other queens, Mary Tudor, Isabella of Bavaria, Lucretia Borgia, all turned suffering into weaponized power, poisons, rituals, experiments so refined that even modern science struggles to recreate them. The archive suggests a silent network of royal women, trained not only in diplomacy, but in the art of vengeance. Truths so dark they were locked away for centuries. Truths we have only begun to uncover. Now the question for you is simple. Whose hidden story should we open next? Mary Tudor, Isabella of Bavaria, Lucretia Borgia, or someone else entirely? Your choice will decide the next Forbidden's chapter.